think about that either.
No worries. All right. And welcome to What the Music. Very cool episode. I am very thrilled to have one of the members, and maybe we're going to be joined later by another member of Cosmic Convoy. Brent is with us. Thank you for joining me along in the show. I really appreciate what you're doing for music, especially country music, I should say. Um, your sound is very old timey.
Yeah, thanks for having me and maybe us on. Um, and yeah, back at you. I appreciate what you're doing for music, for us specifically now. But yeah, I mean, we have a lot of influences, and a lot of those, especially for me, are really old school country influences. And growing up in Texas and living in Central Texas, there are a lot of modern guys who don't necessarily get a lot of recognition that kind of carry on that tradition, who are also influences. But then, there are influences ranging all over the place from there. Like, I was really influenced by a lot of the Elephant Six stuff, like in the late '90s, and then just all kinds of other stuff. Harry Nilsson is a big favorite. So it's just, Cosmic Convoy, we really kind of, channel the country vibe, I think. And that's kind of what we're doing there. But yeah.
One of my favorite things about you guys that I just found out too was you guys started off as a cover band,
Yeah.
and it's really interesting because a lot of cover bands that I know, they usually just stick as cover bands and really don't do much from that, which is great. I mean, when you're in a cover band, that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna cover all these, wonderful songs. But you guys decided to then start adding new music and writing music in your repertoire. What was that decision like? Was that something that just came natural, or were you just getting tired of just playing these same old songs? Not that there's anything wrong with playing the same old
Yeah,
songs.
no. So yeah, I mean, everyone in the band has been in other groups or done other projects and still do other projects. They've pretty much always been almost all originals. So really doing the cover band was the new thing for us. And some of us, now have families and stuff like that, work jobs, and we still put out our music, but at some point we were like, we need to try to make a little bit of money up, playing music.
Yeah.
And so around here, it's, in Austin is so saturated with bands, and it's just like, so we were like, well, let's just start a cover band and play music that songs we love. And, we try to keep it fresh, like not necessarily playing the exact same songs every time, but it's mostly old country stuff, but we also throw in some old R&B and soul and some rock stuff. But even, like, I don't know if you're familiar with Silver Jews and Dave Berman. When he passed away, we threw in a couple of his songs into the set list. And but yeah, I mean, it was really just to kind of supplement our income, doing something we love to do. But then, like you said, after a while, me as kind of the singer in the band, and I'm a songwriter too, I was like, I feel, I do just kind of get the itch. Like, I don't kind of like love the idea of just being, like, yeah, I'm in a cover band,
Yeah.
like I want to play originals, and I kind of crave that in a band. So yeah, I just kind of brought the idea of like, could we throw in some, some of these originals? And, overall everyone was like, yeah, let's do it, because they, we feel like they kind of fit in, and it worked out. So we recorded an EP. So yep, that's kind of how that went.
Yeah, the EP that we are talking about, and we are playing just a few cuts because it's a small EP, 6 songs. Um, the EP is entitled Together Again for the First Time. It's an interesting title because I know you guys have bounced around with each other in different projects and various, things. So this was your guys' I guess first time as all three of you guys, or five I should say, as a band. Is that what that title
Well, it was more like, I guess there are a couple of aspects to that title. One is just kind of like taking a page from some of the old country stuff, like just kind of the play on words and things like that. But then the other one was, that we've all kind of played together for a long time in different bands. I guess I've kind of been the one that's kind of, me and Andy, the drummer, have kind of spread out amongst the different songwriters and played in the different bands, doing different instruments and stuff. But this was the first time we kind of got all the main songwriters from the bands that we're kind of related to, and all did something together. So yeah, I guess that's kind of where that came from.
To have a bunch of songwriters in a band, is that cumbersome? Because usually there's only one, maybe two songwriters, but to have a whole band be a songwriter, that sounds like a lot of chiefs, not enough Indians,
Yeah, and at the beginning it's actually my brother was in the band originally, and he writes. I mean, he's literally written thousands of songs, and he's in a bunch of different projects. But eventually he bowed out of the band, and we brought in this guy Mark, who's now a good friend. He moved here from West Virginia. He's also a really good artist. ATX Inc. is where you can find him on like Instagram and stuff. But yeah, so now Chris, also the lead guitarist, is a really good songwriter. He heads a band called Golden Bear. We're all on the same record label that we kind of run ourselves, along with our good friend Matt Pittman. But yeah, in Cosmic Convoy, I think every once in a while we'll throw in some of Chris's songs too. But I guess it's kind of come down to where we, in this particular band, we kind of have come up with these roles. So for me, it's kind of like the singer and guitarist, and then Chris kind of really focuses on the lead guitar because he never really played country music prior to us making this band. But he's really talented, and he's really picked up like you can hear on Till I See an Empty Cup and some of the songs on the EP, where he's really gotten good at playing those old school country western kind of licks on the guitar.
Yeah, and for more information on the band, make sure to go check them out on their website, cosmicconvoy.com. I have links to their Instagram, their Facebook, and their Twitter. Go ahead and log on to entertheshell.com for all that information. Going back to your EP, a few things that I noticed. One, are you guys playing Texas Hold'em on the cover?
You know what? I don't play any poker. So I was just sitting there. That's in a little store out northeast of Austin. It's and I wish Chris was on the call because he knows. I think it's called the Sealy store, or the Seal store. It's a tiny little town, and they've got this little store there, and that's all that's there. I mean, it's so that's where we went to take some pictures, but I have no idea what we're playing in that picture. We're just sitting around. Somebody set up the cards. I don't know.
It looked really cool. I was
yeah.
Like, oh man, I was like, man, these guys are serious gamblers.
Yeah, not cool. So much. But yeah. My son actually is the one who kind of took that picture, and then because it was just a picture, and he kind of made it into more kind of because like we kind of pattern ourselves, or we try to pattern ourselves after some of the like the Flying Burrito Brothers, Graham Parsons kind of style of country music. So he made, he came up with his idea of what would be like a cosmic American version of that that photo. So.
It's quite endearing, I have to say. I was like, oh man, this is cool. I'm like, what am I going to get into? And then I play it, and it's really cool. This EP, fascinating EP. You did this one day. I think it was like 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah.
Usually a band goes in and they do an EP, but it's like a week, maybe even 2 weeks. Why do you think it took you such a small amount of time? Was it because you guys just had to get home, or you only had enough for like one session?
The engineer kicked us out of the studio. No, he kind of did. No, he's a good friend. He's actually a friend from high school that I had not really talked to in years, and I knew he ran a studio, but I got into contact with him. But yeah, I mean, most of the time when we record ourselves. And the last we're in another band called The Channel that's more like psychedelic rock music. And the last, not the last album, because that album we did in a few months during quarantine, but the album before that, called Multi Goods and Services, it literally took us like 10 years to record everything. So yeah, to do a whole EP in one day was amazing. I mean, and to have somebody else at the controls and taking care of everything. It was, I mean, we play live a lot, so we were just pretty comfortable with the songs, and we just kind of knocked them out and didn't think too hard about adding things or doing much to it. We just tried to keep kind of a live vibe to it.
Yeah, it really worked out, and the recording really sounds really good. Speaking of doing live things, I noticed I was on your Facebook, and for those that want to go ahead and log on, facebook.com/Cosmic Convoy, you guys started doing a bunch of, I guess, live shows and streaming on there. I like this approach for so many different reasons. I think before the pandemic that we are currently in, and I would love to get your take on what's going on out there in Austin in just a moment. But however, because of the coronavirus, a lot of people had to think of different ways in order to do stuff. And I noticed a lot more bands are now starting to do live streaming sets. And I like that because you know what, like, you guys are in Austin, Texas. I can't be out there, but I can catch a live stream and see you guys right here in California. Was this something that you guys talked about, or was this something that actually happened due to the coronavirus?
Yeah, I mean, it's due to the coronavirus, but at the same time, it's all of us work other jobs except Mark. He actually, photography and art is his job, so he's lucky that way. But the rest of us work jobs where we have to go in. We actually all live a good bit outside of Austin. Like I'm in a little town called Jonestown, which is about 30 to 45 minutes from downtown, which is where I work. So when coronavirus hit and they told us we had to work from home, I was like, that's okay with me, and I mean, it's been great. And so in a way, it's like, I'm kind of introverted, and so everything about this coronavirus has been pretty awesome. Except obviously, the people who have gotten really sick. But yeah, like doing live streams, it's like, like ACL Fest and all these big festivals come to Austin. And I've been here since like 1996. And, at that time it was really fun to go downtown and see all these cool new bands that nobody's heard of. And now it's kind of turned into a big commercial thing. And so now I try to avoid them, but I can the live streams from home the same way you would if you're in California. So, in a way it's like, well, maybe this is the way to go anyway. But there is something about obviously playing to a live audience that's a lot different than, but yeah, the first one we did was a local guy here named James Hand. He's like a genuine old school, like Hank Williams came back from the dead or something, like country guy. And he died kind of like out of the blue. He had like a heart attack or something. So the first stream we did was just kind of like a tribute to him, and we played a lot of his songs and a lot of ours and whatever else. But yeah, from there we were like, hey, that was pretty easy and fun. Let's just keep doing these. So I think this weekend or next weekend we're gonna do a full band live stream with the drums and everything, and hopefully the sound is all right, because that'll be an experiment. But yeah.
I hopefully that goes good. And for more information, again, log on to their facebook.com/Cosmic Convoy if you want to go see them live in action. One of the last things before I let you go that we talked about was, how are things out in Austin? You are my olive branch and my connection out other than here in California. How are things going, and what's it looking like out there?
Just as far as like the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's, if you go downtown, it's kind of, which I've only gone a couple times. It kind of feels like a ghost town. It's kind of weird. But it seems like over the past, month or so, things have started to pick up a little bit. Like even just driving into town to get groceries or whatever, there's just more traffic and more people out. Everybody's wearing masks, but overall, it seems like, I mean, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but some of us who know each other really well, and know where we've been and that we're being careful, that we'll get together and, we'll still be careful with each other. But, I feel like it's detrimental when I think sometimes, you have to balance out like what's more detrimental, getting to people and taking that risk, or just totally isolating yourself for months and months on end, so I think everyone's just trying to come up with that balance that works for them.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for that. Again, I only know what's going on here in California and whatever things that I read. So you are my kind of, my correspondent out there. So I hope everything kind of works out well for you guys, and hopefully we get through this and we can move forward and do live shows and be out and about with people. Wanted to get your take, lastly, on the state of country music. Here in LA, I think it's a little bit more different because LA is all about kind of the trends and all that. So whenever I turn it on to a country station here, it's not what I envision country is. It's very poppy, and I'm just like, this is country. It's not really kind of in my head. Like when I hear you guys, I'm like, yeah, that to me is country. But wanted to get your take on the state of country music.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, of course, I guess in some ways I'm just a little bit of a purist when it comes to a lot of different kinds of music, but especially old country is something I grew up with my dad listening to, and I just really hold it kind of close to my heart. So yeah, same thing. When I hear modern country music, to me, that's not country music. And I don't even pretend that it is. It's just like, it's just, the closest thing I could compare it to is maybe like, mid 90s, alt grunge pop stuff that would come on the radio kind of after Pearl Jam and Nirvana had kind of died out and there were all those secondary bands. That's kind of how I think of it, I guess. But yeah, I mean, to me, country music and the state of country music now, like when you ask that question, I don't even think of like modern country radio or CMT or anything like that. I think of maybe like, like as far as more mainstream stuff like Sturgill Simpson, or the list is really short. But then there's a lot of stuff that's a little more under the radar that's really good too. Like another thing, another band I thought was really good that I don't know if they're even still together, but Beachwood Sparks. I don't know if they're from California. They put out some stuff on Sub Pop. Like they put out one album maybe like 10 years ago. That was the last one I'm aware of, but it's really good. And then there's a band here called Mike and the Moon Pies. They put out a really good album last year. So yeah, there's bands out there. It's just kind of like anything else nowadays. You've got to dig to find the good stuff, I think, sometimes. Which is where I appreciate your podcast so much. Like Matt, had been corresponding with you, so he sent us some information about you, and he said, "Oh, I found this band that I love," and now I'm blanking on the name. It was one word. They're really kind of like, I ended up listening to all their albums on Spotify because they had one album that kind of reminded me of like Syd Barrett, and then they had other ones that were more like Wall of Sound 60s kind of stuff. Anyway, yeah, so I appreciate you and people that are doing stuff like you're doing, just getting people's music out there.
Cool. Well, thank you so much again for coming on the show. I really appreciate what you guys are doing as well for music. And anytime you guys have anything new coming out, and I know November 6th is when the EP drops. So go out and check it out together again for the first time. For more information, log on to cosmicconvoy.com. I'll have all the links on entertheshell.com. Thank you for letting me play a couple cuts from the EP. I really enjoyed it. And again, it's very it's very country. It's very what I always thought country is. So thank you for bringing back that up to light right here. And thanks again.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it a lot. Have a good one.